Hubbard and Billy Martin, and the Yankees want the bat. Look at Martin.
Well, what they're talking about, Frank, is that he's got too much fine tar, and you've got to have a certain amount of distance from the trademark of the bat and the fine tar.
And Nettles is leaving the field as if the game is over. He's just coming in.
I'm not sure. They might have a legitimate gripe. They might be going to call George Brett out.
Well, he's out.
Yes, sir.
Brett is out. Look at this. Brett is out. And
Team is mad.
he is out and having to be forcibly restrained from hitting plate umpire Tim McClellan.
And welcome back to another episode of Too Much Pod Tar. As always, I'm your host, Alex Keeler. I can be found on Twitter at Keeler Scorecrow, at Kielar Scorecrow. And today I have a special guest with Jeramy Hubbard. And he is a phenomenal graphic artist, and he's also a co-host of two podcasts, Fantasy Baseball Podcast, Fantasy Front Office, which he also edits himself, and a movie podcast called Sequel Quest Podcast. And he also, with the graphic designing, he also created the logo for this podcast. And, when I first saw it, I just thought, wow, this is amazing. I never expected anything that great for our podcast. And, to get such a good artwork for it right away is just like pretty awesome to, get the podcast off the ground. So thanks for coming to the show, Jeramy.
Oh, well, thank you for inviting me. Yeah, I've always believed that having a solid foundation, solid logo, especially off the start, can really make or break the debut.
Yeah, definitely. It was definitely good to have something that stands out as much as that logo did. It's just, great job with it. You did a really good job. Yeah, so just to start off here, Jeramy, what got you into graphic designing?
Well, I got into graphic design and web design and things back in high school. Okay. There wasn't really a full-on course. It was like the first or second year that they started even offering it. And I jumped in, and technically it was my sophomore year I started.
Okay.
Took the same course 3 years in a row. The instructor was like, yeah, you can keep taking this because it's changing every year. So just keep at it. From there, I went off to Africa as a missionary and spent 2 years over there, came home, got into some school, got into working, and fell into a radio job working the producer position for the morning show. And from there, schooling kind of took the back burner, and I haven't been back since. So all this design work is just unofficial. Mm-hmm. There's no degrees, no nothing that's really backing my name, just the work itself, man.
Yeah, that's good though. You gotta kind of make your own way sometimes. You don't always have to, do the official thing of like getting your schooling and all that, getting an actual degree. If you make your own way somehow, it's still a solid thing to do. Did you go to college? You didn't go to college or anything at all for it?
I did some college. I started with one of the community colleges down here in Arizona, and jumped from assistant coaching their baseball team to the radio gig, and haven't really done much of the schooling stuff besides random courses I'll find on the internet somewhere for free that are just in something that I'm interested in.
Yeah, cool. That's definitely really cool. And with the radio thing too, that kind of gave you the idea to make a podcast and all that too, probably, right? If I'm not mistaken there. Yeah.
Well, actually, it's funny that you say that. I wasn't the instigator on any of the podcasts I'm on. Mostly it was I had friends who reached out to me because of the radio
Oh,
thing
right.
and began asking questions on the technical side. And so I jumped on mainly the movie one, Sequel Quest Pod. Sequel Quest is one word when you look it up. That's one of our co-hosts really wanted that name.
Okay.
So we started it up, and it was basically going to be, well, I'll get you guys up and running and peace out. And now 4 years later, almost,
wow.
yeah, we're approaching the 4-year mark. Been podcasting with them since October of 2015.
Wow, awesome.
That one, we concoct movie sequels to movies that don't really have sequels to them. We've done everything from Masters of the Universe to Home Alone to upcoming. We just did Bird Box a couple weeks ago.
Oh, okay.
The Netflix movie, and we're working on Ferris Bueller's Day Off coming up.
Very cool. I know you had that pod for. I saw it as soon as I saw your page. I saw it, but I haven't really gotten into listening to it. So definitely hearing that, I definitely start listening to it. It sounds very cool.
Yeah, we actually just got picked up by a network on that one, the Retro Network, TRN. We just got hooked up with them, and most of our stuff is shifting over there real soon. But you can still find us as a standalone podcast, but the newer episodes will be posted on their network feed.
Oh, awesome. And then, what was the idea? Where did the idea for the fantasy baseball one come from?
That was actually my buddy Fantasy_Keith. He hit me up and was like, dude, we should definitely get some fantasy baseball talk going, because we play in a league together. We have for 5-6 years now, and we got a good group of guys that we honestly hadn't met in person, but we all played in the same league. So we got together and started talking. We're going on, we're in season 3 with that. So
that's awesome.
It's as often as we can get together and podcast with the fantasy front office.
Which one kind of takes priority over the other, if any of them do?
Man, it's so rough with the day job that I just make time for both of them pretty evenly right now.
Okay.
Sequel Quest, I don't have to do much of the editing. One of my co-hosts, I trained him up, and he does the majority of it, sends it to me. I'll slap on the front and the back end of all the, not quite ad reads, but tags and whatnot for the episodes, and get that posted. But the fantasy front office, I handle all the editing on that, and that does take a good chunk of my time when it's free.
Yeah. I definitely feel that, because I edit this podcast myself, so it definitely takes a pretty good amount of time to do.
Yeah, I've kind of been tinkering around with things. I don't use the Anchor app at all. I use Adobe Audition mostly from my my radio days. Got used to using that, and how precise I personally feel I can get with it. But yeah, I'm kind of a perfectionist with it. I've relaxed a little bit just to ease speeding the posting out. Yeah. But yeah, it's still a labor of love.
Yeah. So how long precisely does it take to edit one episode, do you think?
Well, I think I got it down to usually it's about an hour-long podcast. Will take about 3 hours to edit down.
Okay.
Because you're constantly playing, you'll hear something, you got to reverse, play it back again, chop it out, play it again just to make sure everything's smooth, and then so you play things back 3 or 4 times. But yeah, it does take a good chunk of time to edit.
Yeah. So moving on here, like with the podcast, both podcasts, what do you like do to consistently keep your like listeners interested in the podcasts? Like keep them listening every week or every episode.
Yeah, with every episode, hopefully you have content and not just bland content. Man, injuries are happening every week. Usually you can find people that just got hurt, so you can talk about replacements for them. For those that are coming back for replacements, guys that are probably going to lose playing time, like this weekend with the trade of Edwin Encarnacion to the Yankees. Man, who'd have thunk that it was Clint Frazier that was going to get instantly sent down?
Yeah.
When he's been the steady rock of production for them.
Yeah, and as a Yankees fan, that kind of made me mad. They still have Talkman on the roster still, and he should have been down first before Clint Frazier was.
Well, is Talkman out of options though? I think that's probably the main issue. I know they got him from Colorado probably because of the option issue. He had to pass through waivers, and they picked him up. So it's definitely an options issue.
Well, I don't know, because I think they were saying that they're going to send him down as soon as Stanton comes back, which will be now Tuesday. So,
yeah. So you got Stanton, you got Judge coming back. I mean, really, why haven't they packaged him and Urshela together and gone out and got an ace starting pitcher yet?
I don't know. It beats me, but it's I think it's coming soon.
Oh yeah, there's lots of talk on the hot stove on that.
Yeah, that is definitely some talk for some other episodes on the podcast. We're going to be diving into that a lot for sure.
Well, it's definitely heating up here as we approach the All-Star game too.
Oh yeah. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about that. What do you think of like the new All-Star game, like balloting? Like how it's one, kind of one round of voting, and then they narrow it down to 3 for each position. But then obviously outfield they have 9. So like, do you think it's going to be better than regular voting, or I don't know? I want to hear your thoughts.
I honestly have no idea. I haven't even voted this year. Just been swamped with everything else.
Yeah, just my thoughts are just I don't know. It's not really. I think they should just not necessarily get rid of the fan voting altogether, but have a combination of like fan voting and player voting and manager voting instead of like all the like it's too biased when it's just all fans.
Yeah, definitely. That's I mean, Aaron Judge has played how many games this year, and I think is like 7th in the outfield.
Yeah, he's 7th, which doesn't make any sense. He's been out for a while now, and he's going to be in like the final voting, so it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, no, I feel that one. My TGFBI roster could really use Judge.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and then how are your fantasy teams doing this year? Doing pretty good.
It's kind of a mixed bag. I've got 3 different styles, one could say. One, the NFBC version of the TGFBI. I'm getting smoked just due to injuries. Like I lost 4 of my first 5 draft picks to injury, and they've been out most of the year.
Wow,
like
that sucks.
Altuve, Judge. I picked up Scooter Gennett just because I couldn't pass up on the value that he had sitting there in the 5th round. And he's yet to see the field. So I'm in like, let's see, currently 281 out of 315.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Pitching staff has been decent, but not what I'd hoped. I came out of that draft feeling great. I was really feeling it. got a brand new dynasty that we started this year with the fantasy front office listeners hot in there, but I've got a good feeling about the rest of my roster. And then the other two that I'm really feeling this year, I'm in third place in a head-to-head league this far into the season.
Okay.
Kind of an adopted team I helped manage last year and kind of took it over full-time this year and made some moves, made some free agent pickups, and we've been kicking some tail. And the home league that I'm in, I'm currently in second, like eight points ahead of third place and like 13 points behind first.
Oh, okay.
It's a 10-man league, and we've got about 6 teams that are tanking actively. So,
Oh, geez.
yeah, that doesn't help all of us.
Yeah, I feel like with fantasy baseball, a lot of people just, kind of give up halfway through the season.
Well, no, that's the thing. These guys are actively tanking. So they're selling off all their good guys.
Yeah.
Their higher price salary guys. It is a keeper style dynasty league. Everybody's trying to get young, trying to get the hottest prospects type deal.
Yeah.
And the guy who first went this route for tanking this year has turned over his roster enough that he's now fighting it out for 5th place.
Oh, okay. Wow. Yeah, so you have this, this fantasy baseball podcast. You have this movie podcast. What would be the name of one that if you combined it, what would the name be?
Oh boy.
I know it's a tough question.
It is. It would probably have to be. Man, I don't want to give away a great fantasy podcast name, but Fantasy Field of Dreams.
Ooh, yeah, I like that.
Like Jeff's just have a little bit of a movie flair, a little bit of baseball flair. Somebody's probably going to take that name now, but I currently have no plans of combining the two just because way different niche audiences, way different just relevance.
Yeah, another question here would be, you said, I asked that question. You said Field of Dreams, so what's your favorite baseball movie? Would that be your favorite baseball movie?
That's probably my favorite. Like, granted, you've got the comedy of Benchwarmers that's a screwball comedy. You've got the Bad News Bears. The remake wasn't terrible. You definitely get some Billy Bob Thornton in there.
Oh, yeah.
And there's just so many Kevin Costner baseball movies.
Yeah, a lot of good ones, yeah, for sure. But yeah, I think I would go that route too. Say Field of Dreams is probably my favorite, but there's so many that I really like. I really enjoy. Like even the Natural, I like a lot.
Yeah.
And can't think of too many right. Oh, Sandlot, I love that one.
Sandlot, Bull Durham. Not a fan of Sandlot 2.
No,
wasn't that great, but a little cash grab.
Yeah, most sequels don't turn out to be too great. So,
well, and we've made a whole podcast off of making terrible sequels. Some of them are actually quite engaging. We do come away with some surprisingly good ones every once in a while. It's an interesting thing to have to follow up on something that is culturally so relevant.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel like a lot of times they should let it go. Like if the first one is just so good, they should just be like, you know what, we made our money on this, let's just stop. But they never do.
So what were your first reactions to seeing the logo I sent over? You gave me some pointers, and some things that were just it was a little difficult for me to try to figure out how to make that work, just because the best photos you can get of that moment of George Brett running out of the dugout are so grainy and pixelated and whatnot. It was tough to conceptualize what I was going to do with it.
Yeah, as soon as I saw it, I just thought you did like the best job anyone can ever do with like what they were given. You know, you can't find, as you said, you can't find good pictures of that moment. So it's just, I think that you did the best thing you can do with it, and it was just, I think it's just perfect for the podcast. When we came up with the name, we were thinking too much pod tar. It's just like, we thought that's the moment we thought of was George Brett and a George Brett moment running out of the dugout. And I don't know if you've listened to it before, but we have like the intro was actually the announcers when he's going out running and everything.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I just tried to figure out how I could incorporate as much of that into it. Color scheme wise, good old royal blue, white. The gold was a nice touch. I was having some difficulty trying to find a good solid color there. And then creating a bat handle that worked into the mic, the fingerprints on it.
Oh yeah.
Almost like it's the pine tar.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I thought that was great though. It's just, I don't think you could have done anything more with it. It's just perfect, I think, the way it is.
Awesome. That's always what you want to hear.
Yeah. So I think we covered pretty much everything here. You gave some really good insight here on, all your podcasts your 2 podcasts, and then, have you got into graphic design and all that. So, and I forgot to mention at the beginning of the show, you can follow Jeramy on Twitter at Front Office Jer. It's FRONT Office JER, and his podcast, his fantasy baseball podcast is on Twitter at Fan Front Office, and his movie podcast is on Twitter at SQ Pod. And he also has a photography Twitter, and it's at Jeramy Snaps, at JERAMY Snaps. So yeah, definitely check that out. Check all of his content out. Listen to his subscribe and listen to his podcast. And yeah, thanks for coming on the show, Jeramy. You're a great guest.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me. I don't do much of my photography on Twitter. I reserve that mostly for Instagram and on my website. It is jeramysnaps.com, JERAMYSNAPS.com. On Instagram, it's Jeramy Snaps Photos. Just wanted to differentiate it a little bit. Definitely follow us at Fan Front Office. We try to get a pod out at least every other week. We've had some scheduling difficulties this month. But yeah, we're looking to get the gang back together here this week and get some good stuff back in your ear holes. And we'll hopefully be able to satiate your eyeballs as well. There's a couple of us that do graphic design on the staff here. Our other graphic designer, Justin, is doing most of the graphics over at Picture List. He is a solid guy as well. So, all righty, Alex. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, no problem. And you're always welcome anytime to come on. Talk some fantasy baseball or anything. So.
All righty, sounds good, man.
Yeah. So you have a good one.
Will do.
Yeah. So again, as always, this was another episode of Too Much Podtar. I was your host, Alex Keeler, and you can find the podcast anywhere you can find, pretty much anywhere you can find podcasts. It's on Apple Music, Google Play Music, Spotify, and a couple other ones that you can find podcasts. So, and also follow, the Squirrel on Twitter at the Squirrel and also Facebook, Instagram. And we do actually have a new Facebook group. You can find our new Facebook group, and it's just the Squirrel Sports Group on Facebook. And we also have a new subreddit on Reddit, and it's just the Squirrel Group. And yeah, find us there. We're gonna post a lot of our articles on there, and stay up to date on all our new stuff coming out. More episodes of this podcast, and we're gonna be coming out with, as always, a new episode every week. So, and just a reminder, you can never have too much Podtar.